track.
Oh, man.
And harder, look at Lesnar, those clubbing forearms from the ground and pound position.
This is just bare bones.
Hey, this is the Toxic Reign Scandal featuring TBK, the Turnbuckle King himself. We got another good one for you guys today. We are here with SummerSlam coming up. But before we get to SummerSlam, which will be in a week and a half from now, we're going to talk about SummerSlam Behind the Scenes. We're going to talk about scenes that have behind the most infamous, popular matches of all time here at Toxic Reign Scandal. You guys in Facebook, we're here live on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Make sure you guys get the likes as you're coming into the locker room. Yes, you don't want to miss it. And of course, as usual, you do not want to miss it because I'm going to air the dirty laundry on this one. And it's going to be top scandals. He may even get some interviews in between as well. But it's something we're going to look into. But definitely, let's see who came into the locker room before we begin. We got CeeLo Myers. Salute to you, man. But we're going to definitely talk about it. But we got SummerSlam scandals. It's always some crazy stuff behind the scenes. We think everything goes down at WrestleMania, but you're wrong. They go down at SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer, and that's the reason they call it the biggest party for a reason. So also we got some announcements to make before we begin. We got ourselves a brand new tournament, a new tournament that I announced on my other channel, Red Carpet Ring, yesterday. We got a tournament that is going to be of top matches, guys. We're gonna name top SummerSlams of all time. And what we're gonna do, if you guys check this channel and Red Carpet Reign, I'm going to ask every day comparing SummerSlams, which SummerSlam is better. And this is the one I did earlier. You guys thus far have picked SummerSlam 2011. So we're going to definitely go in. We're going to go ahead and rate the SummerSlams, put them here on the bracket, and we're going to come to a final SummerSlam, which SummerSlam is the best. Like I said, the vote will be done here on Toxic Reign Scandal and Red Carpet Ring, and then we come down to the final rounds, come down later. We'll do a live or video about which SummerSlam is the best. You don't want to miss out on this tournament. This will be a very good tournament, and I think it's something that we all like because SummerSlam is upcoming. It's here pretty much, and we're going to definitely talk about it. But the art there, that's for the Red Carpet Ring. My other channel, that logo. Then, of course, you got the Toxic Reign Scandal logo, and there will be a comparison of what SummerSlam matches are the best, rating from 1988 to current today. It could be a range of any year, but if you guys keep out in the community tab, I will be asking questions like this: which SummerSlam is better? So you guys keep an eye out for that. And I think it'll be something we all as fans want to know: which SummerSlam is the best? Who did it the best? Which one did it real good? So something new that I'm doing, and I'm trying, and I'm gonna have it on both channels because we all like SummerSlam. Well, most of us do at least. Maybe some of you don't like SummerSlam. But anyway. Vote on both channels. But with that being said, we're going to get into the SummerSlam behind the scenes, the biggest SummerSlam scandals. May even get some interviews in between, but we're going to go down this list here, rank it for which big SummerSlam stuff went down. So let's tune into that shortly. Let's get into it. And of course, let's get the likes up here and X and Facebook. Let's get the likes up. But we're going to definitely get into it right now. So let's do that. Let's talk about these SummerSlam scandals behind the scenes. Let's do that. top 5 SummerSlam scandals. So we're gonna do that. Thank you all coming in on Toxic Ring Scandal here. If you guys, we also gonna be on Toxic Ring Scandal and Red Carpet Ring. We're gonna talk about the 5 scandals on the Toxic Ring. Top 10 SummerSlam wins, and number 1. Top 5 I'm going to explain. It's going to be a SummerSlam matchup between 2 guys, and the deal of it backstage. So it will be the 5 matches, but what happened beyond that match. So we will definitely do that. Thank you all for coming in. It's the first time doing this from Toxic Ring Scandal and Red Carpet Ring. Something new I'm doing here, you know. And of course, got Mr. Goodbray with me, so he'll get his input on those scandals and also on the top 10 SummerSlam wins. So that's going to be very good to do. So we'll get into that in a second. And this is how we're going to start this today. It's a little different. Please bear with me, you know. But I promise I will give you guys a good show tonight. So it will be the top 5 SummerSlam scandals. Like I said, these are matches that did happen in SummerSlam, but it was some backstage drama behind it. So like I said, if you come from Rumble, subscribe to Toxic Ring Scandal and Red Carpet Ring on YouTube, also on Rumble. On Rumble, please come to YouTube, check it out, and we'll go over each one. The first one we're going to go over is, this is Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth wedding ceremony. Now this happened at SummerSlam 1991. Of course, this was actually one of the main events of SummerSlam 91. So with that being said, these two did get married on screen at SummerSlam. It's one of the first, if not the first, wedding ceremony on WWE television. But in real life, Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man got divorced the following year. They were already married here in real life at this point. They were married for 1984 to 91, so we're looking at 7 years at this point. But unfortunately, the union in real life did not last. They got divorced the following year. Now, however, the two would reunite in WCW with some segments, as Macho was part of NWO. And Miss Elizabeth was a part of NWO at one point too. If you look back, guys, she had the shirt on. She was with Eric Bischoff and I believe the Wolfpack guys, but she wasn't part of it. But other than that, they never rekindled their romance. Macho Man got remarried, so Miss Elizabeth. Unfortunately, they're both not here with us today. Miss Elizabeth passed away in 2003 and Macho Man 2011. So this is good, where I'm gonna bring you on here, and I'm gonna ask for your input on that.
Now this was dope. I remember this one right here because this was the ceremony that they had to conclude the whole Macho Man career-ending match with the Ultimate Warrior, guys. If you could think back, he had a career-ending match with the Ultimate Warrior, and at the end of that match, Sensational Sherry turned on him, and then Elizabeth made her stunning appearance that she was on vacation or she was on a break from the Macho Man. When he did his heel turn, he only had Sherry with him. So we didn't see Elizabeth up until that point, that WrestleMania, that year WrestleMania. And then she came and she rescued the Macho Man. She took Sherry off of him because Sherry she started putting the beats on Macho Man for losing. You know what I mean? He lost the career in the match to the Warrior. So Elizabeth came back, and then they dragged that storyline to that year's SummerSlam, where they married at that SummerSlam. So that's what I remember of this.
Man, that was good stuff. Gab, get this to you, Mr. Good Bread.
Because I am that damn good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are that damn good. That was a good one. I can't say it no better. You explained it perfectly. Now, the next scandal we're going to go into will be the Bret Hart versus British Bulldog Intercontinental Championship. This was at SummerSlam 1992. So, these guys had a match for the IC belt at Wembley Stadium. Now, in real life, behind this match, British Bulldog was enjoying himself too much with the drugs. Reports have stated that he alleged had crack, smoking crack for weeks with Jim Hart, which is Natalia's dad, who's also part of the Hart Foundation. He had smoked crack that night before, and the whole script of the match of how he's gonna go over him and Bret, he completely forgot everything. He was so high. Also alleged that he was missing and had to look for him. Now remember, back in 1992, which is what 31 years ago, we didn't have social media like we do now. We didn't have the smartphones, the cell phones. We had the regular pay phones, rotary phones, pagers, etc., etc. So it was a lot harder to catch up with someone if you couldn't get a hold of them compared to today. So I can only imagine how much frustrating this was for Bret Hart leading to a major match at SummerSlam, especially in that arena. And he had to walk British Bulldog through everything, let alone couldn't get a hold of him at first. That already is, a headache alone. And not only did Bret carry through a match, he made him look good, make him like $1 million. He also had this for PWI Match of the Year in 1992. So this what you would never think. The way this match went down, there was something going on behind the scenes. Now, me, since I know a little bit, I know wrestling storylines good. You could tell Bret has frustration on his face. I believe the part where he shook Bulldog's hand, he wasn't supposed to do that because Bulldog was still out of it. He reluctantly shook his hand, but you could tell if you watched the match like I did recently, he wasn't supposed to shake his hand. He wasn't supposed to go down like that because British Bulldog's wife and Bret Hart's sister, Diana Hart, was in the ring, and they showed footage of her. But this was definitely something different. Definitely something different. So with that being said, I will take over Good Bread.
Yeah, you said enough right here. I really can't. It makes no sense for me to go over anything you said. The boy was on crack rock, bro, the night before, and it was just so much pressure. And that's the thing, becoming a champion for any brand, any company, is a lot of pressure come with that. Any sport, once you become the champion, or they're grooming you to become the champion, you place a lot of pressure on yourself. You know what I mean? This is why you got to do the work on your mind. You got to fix your mind.
And I'm awesome! And I'm awesome!
Yep, you're exactly right. Also, Bret Hart, he did an interview talking about this whole ordeal of SummerSlam 92. He talked about this on Inside the Ropes. So he actually did an interview a while back about this, which was actually, I think it was maybe they pulled up the interview, maybe the whole interview a week ago. But he talked about the whole match behind SummerSlam '92 of him and Davey Boy Smith. So we're gonna talk about see what Bret Hart had to say regarding this. We're gonna see how did he feel towards this particular match. Let's get that up right now. And like, subscribe, come into the locker room.
When you think about it, you and Davey Boy never faced off before SummerSlam. There was no angle on TV of you two fighting. The first time we saw you guys face off was at SummerSlam. How did you feel about? Because that's a bold move for that to be the main event of a SummerSlam, and the two guys have never faced off at that point.
Well, you know, the kind of the truth of it is that Hulk Hogan, who was the biggest star in the world and at the time, maybe in anything, like he was such a huge phenomenon. He hated to travel he didn't like going to England. He didn't like traveling, and he didn't want to go to England. So he rarely went. I don't remember Hulk being there very often. But guys like me were going over there all the time for tours. And so that opened the door. When Hulk wasn't there, it allowed guys like me to get some of that shine, you know, and get fans to go, okay, well, I like him too. And it was sort of a changing of the guard in wrestling at that time. If you go back to Wembley, before Wembley, you know, I fought Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 8. And that was, to me, was one of my first real wrestling classics was the match with Roddy. The other one would have been with Perfect. And I had a few others that were, you know, with Ricky Steamboat and Ted DiBiase and different guys where I really got to show my best stuff. But I knew that the match that we were going to have was going to kick the door in, and that wrestling was changing. People were getting tired of the cartoon characters, and they were getting tired of the steroided up wrestlers getting all the credit. And it wasn't all about how big your arms were. It was sometimes fans started liking the wrestling. Guys like Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect were making people wrestling fans again, and they liked the wrestling part of it. And I can remember lots of times wrestling Kurt Hennig, and Hulk Hogan would be on last, and the biggest match on the card was definitely me and Kurt. And so I started getting some credit finally, and they started slowly give me a little rise in the company at that time. But I think that the fans were getting sick of the bodybuilders, guys like Hogan and Warrior, and I won't go on and name all these guys, but they were doing there was a lot of slow, ponderous wrestlers that were big and bulky.
Bret Hart's on to some, because this is the time where it was not the golden age wrestling anymore. It started to shift over to the new generation. Like he said, it wasn't about the big, bulky 250, 275 pounder, 6'3", 6'4" guy. It was about technicians, wrestlers, skill, style. Guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and others. But Bret Hart on to something. Let's continue on. See, Mr. Goodbread reaction, salute. Vinny Chinzo, salute. But let's continue on.
Bulky, that really weren't great wrestlers necessarily, but they were great characters. But I think people started to really love the wrestling. I think people loved my wrestling, or the way, you know, loved the you know, just the contrast of reality from the other matches.
And, you know, you were part of WrestleMania 3, and you were there at the Pontiac Silverdome, and then 5 years later, you get to Wembley the day of the show. You've had all these issues with Davey trying to get everything together. What do you remember about when you got to Wembley and you see that stadium set up and ready?
Well, we've been there the whole day Saturday, like the whole day. We were at the building. We were all worried it was going to rain. That was the big fear. Everyone was crossing their fingers and biting their lip and praying that it didn't rain, because it was raining, I think, when we got there. And it was like, oh my God, what if it rains? It'll ruin everything. I didn't want to wrestle in the rain. And anyway, I think for me, there's things I remember. I remember flying into England and going to my hotel in downtown London somewhere. But I remember there was fans on the street. There were so many fans on the street all night chanting Hitman, Hitman, they'd spell my name out like cheerleaders, HITMAN, and then they'd cheer and yell it all the way up from the street. And I could hear it all night. They cheered till at least 4 a.m. And then they would cheer Bulldog's name, Bulldog, BULLDOG. And then anyway, they did it all night. And I could sort of tell by that, it's like, this is going to be fantastic tomorrow. I knew maybe more than anybody else that this match, because I had the match. I had every single step in my head. Every single day I'd lie down when I was, because in wrestlers a lot of times we lie down in tanning beds. And I remember every time I'd lay in a tanning bed, I'd sit there and I'd start the match. I'd tie up with Davey and it would start right there. And I'd run the whole match through my head. And I remember every time I'd lie in the tanning bed and run the whole match through my head, and it's going to be the greatest match of all time. To me, the greatest match of all time up to that point was Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. And amongst the professionals in the industry, most guys at that time would have said that was the best match ever. Best wrestling match. 2 guys working and telling a really great story. Macho Man, Steamboat. Best ever. And so that was, to me, that was the mark to top. And I wanted to deliver a better match than that. And I like to think I did. And I was pretty excited about it. But things I remember about that, I remember we had to do a meet and greet that day in London at the Wembley, and they brought me up to some media room at the Wembley Stadium, which is huge. It took me about an hour to get up to the top of it just to meet some contest winners that had been on radio shows and stuff like that had won tickets and whatever. And there was this whole room full of fans, and every one of them had a Bulldog shirt on. And there was one little kid that had a Hitman shirt on. And I remember it's like, hey, little buddy. And I remember I got with him, and he said, can you give me your glasses tonight? And because I had a lot of kids ask me if I would give them my glasses. And I'm like, it's a lot harder than you think. When you're in the ring, you see 20,000 or 30,000 or 100,000 people out there. You can't find one little kid anywhere, even if they tell you where they are. It's like you can't even see them. That's like such a blur of people so I didn't want to hurt his feelings and tell him that I said, well, if I see you, I'll give them to you. And anyway, that's just a funny little tidbit, because when I went out to the ring for the match, when I dropped out on the floor to give somebody my sunglasses, I didn't even look. I just dropped out on the floor and I walked right up to that kid, put the glasses on his head. I didn't even see him until I walked up to him, and I go, like a little miracle. Like, oh, wow, I don't know how I found this guy in front of 90,000 people, but here he is, And so anyway, so that was the start of it. And, you can feel, if you ever watch the match back, when you feel that electricity or that energy when I walk out and when Davey walks out, and then there's this moment where you can just sense everybody's like, who's going to win this one? Nobody really knew. And I remember that's the beauty. That's when you have that kind of situation. If you're a great wrestler, you can deliver the great wrestling matches, because you got everyone riveted to your storyline. And I knew it, and I knew it was going to be great. And Davey was literally trembling almost right from the start. He was really nervous, and it was a pretty complicated match. But I slowed him down. I got him to take it easy, like to save his energy, and as we paced the match. I'll say this much: Davey body slamming me would have been like, slamming like a small kid or something, whereas me picking up Davey was like picking up a full refrigerator. He went up heavy for everything, like every suplex or body slam. It was like picking up somebody dead weight, because Davey was just not there that day. But at the same time, Davey would pick me up, and I'd throw boost myself up for him, and he'd pick me up and press slam me and throw me on the ring. I was doing all that to conserve his strength and his energy so that we could do the whole match the way I planned it, because I didn't want Davey to run out of gas. Like, you can't run out of gas, Davey. this is your match and this is all for you. You can't drop the ball. You got to, you're going to screw everything up for everybody, including Vince, but even me, because I'm one that suggested you. And Davey, I don't mean any of this as a put down on Davey, because Davey sucked it up, and I mean he didn't have the wind in the gas in the tank, and there was no way he was going to. But he was determined not to let me down, and he gave everything he had every step of the way to deliver the match that I planned out for him. And I'm sound like I'm being hard on Davey, but I'm not. I love Davey, and I was always, if he was right here, I'd be saying the same things. I wanted to this match for him. It was something I brought right to his doorstep, and it meant a lot to me to help him like that. And I just know that every step of the way through that match, there's not very often you can see Bret Hart talking in my matches. I was never a guy that I was always protecting the business and always trying my best to always make wrestling look legit or real as possible. I didn't want to, like when you're watching Robert De Niro, you don't see him going like, you can't forget your moves and stuff like that. And I don't like to talk in the ring. And if I do talk in the ring, it's one or two words and it's quick and you don't see it. And I hate when I watch old matches back, even my own. I don't like being caught talking. To me, that's that's a mark against you when you get caught talking in the ring. And there's so many great wrestlers that talk in the ring all the time, and I'm like, that's not a very good wrestler. That when you get caught talking in the ring. But in saying all that, the match with Davey and Wembley, you can see lots of times in that match where I'm talking in the match because I didn't have any choice. I had to do the thinking for both of us. And a lot of times I'd have Davey in a rear chin lock and he'd be like breathing really hard. And he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like, Davey, you got to do it. And I got to keep pumping him up and keeping him motivated. And like, anyway, it was a beautiful thing in the end because Davey pulled it all together. There was really only a couple spots in the matches that didn't come off. There's so many moments in that match where when I watch it, I go, it's one of the most realistic matches, I think. It really seems quite physical and real. And, there was different parts in the match. I remember.
Now, all due respect to Bret Hart, we know Bret Hart likes to talk. But that was Bret Hart's take on the whole inside the ropes. Talking about the whole match between him and Davey Boy Wembley. No, Davey was not all there. I know Bret don't want to say so much of it, but I already explained it earlier. But we got some more scandals though. Stay tuned, guys. We got more scandals. Let's get those lights up, guys. We in the locker room here. We got SummerSlam coming up. Biggest party of the summer. Let's not forget about that. Not at all. So it's definitely something we want to keep going. But we got some more scandals. We got some more stuff going on, and we are not done yet. So let's get it going. The kind of press going into the arena. Also for Red Carpet Ring, you guys want to come over to House Race Scandal. Check out the 5 scandals. We are already on 2 of 5. Check that out. And we also hit 2 records. Yep, so check those channels out on Red Carpet Ring, House Race Scandal. Like I said, we got a couple more scandals that we're going to break down. And then we're going to close here, and then we'll head over to Red Carpet Ring, finish the top 10 for SummerSlam wins of all time, at least in my opinion. And then also for the last. Now, I do have that up. The top 10 SummerSlam wins. Check that out at Red Carpet Ring. That's the one I'm talking about. Top 10 wins, top ranked. Check that at the Red Carpet Ring right now. That is up. Check that out. When we're going to head over to Rumble. So you guys stick in for that. Now we're gonna go to the next one. It will be this one. Randy Orton versus Chris Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship, SummerSlam 2004. Now Randy Orton, won the right to face Chris Benoit when he won the Battle Royal for the World Heavyweight Championship. And one of the most shocking wins, he ended up winning the World Heavyweight Championship from Chris Benoit. He became the new World Heavyweight Champion, also the youngest World Heavyweight Champion in history to this date. Now, for many fans, you're probably wondering, Randy Orton is a heel. He won it clean in the ring, no help from Evolution, and there was no proper build-up to win his title. So you're probably thinking, why did Randy Orton win this title like this so cleanly? And it's pretty simple. That same year, 2004, Brock Lesnar, the youngest WWE champion, he left after WrestleMania 20 to pursue opportunities, which was trying out for the Minnesota Vikings, be a football player, and then he did UFC later on, and he even had a short stint in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2005. He was even champion at one point, and he wrestled Kurt Angle over there too in one match. So Vince McMahon, most people know that follow wrestling or don't know, he didn't leave WWE on good terms with Vince McMahon. So he was upset about that, and Vince thought a way to get back to Brock Lesnar since he left was not make him the youngest World Heavyweight Champion anymore since he was the youngest WWE champion. So they used Randy Orton as a pawn to have that title. Because you guys notice he hadn't had that championship for a very long time. He had it for a month. 28 days to be exact, honestly. 28 days, according to records. And he lost to Triple H in Unforgiven 2004. So he won that title, in my opinion, because to get back at Brock Lesnar for leaving WWE so bogus, and he was the youngest champion in history. So that was a good way to get back at him. Now everyone says Randy Orton wasn't ready, he was too young, immature. Yeah, there's some truth to that, but that's the real reason, because he won that title of being the youngest champion ever in history. And no one's even broke that record since then. And that was back 2004. So they wanted to get that title away from Brock Lesnar because of the history of how he left the company back at WrestleMania 20 was pretty much the last match. So that's the scandal behind that particular match. They knew Randy Orton was not mentally ready when he won the belt. Before he won, they knew that. But they just did that to get back at Brock Lesnar. And good, Bryan, I'm going to bring this on to you.
That sounds about right to me, man. That sounds just about right to me. Ain't nothing I can say to go over that. You killed that one. You the man.
Well, I appreciate that. I got a place for myself. You guys don't mind?
Because I am that damn good.
So we're going to go to the last scandal behind the SummerSlam match. So that will be Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton, SummerSlam 2016. This was the first ever match. And these guys. Now for Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, you remember how this match ended. If you guys don't remember it, let me refresh your memory right now.
Just trapped. Oh, man. And harder. Look at Lesnar, those clubbing forearms from the ground and pound position. This is just bare bones trying to bust up.
So yeah, Randy got that work for real. But let's go over and let's talk more about this match of Randy versus Brock, SummerSlam 2016 at the Barclays Center in New York. these guys never wrestled each other before. So since they never wrestled each other before, they had a little match. It was the build-up because they were from the same draft class. Brock Lesnar 2002, Brady Orton 2002. And they finally had their match despite the fact they were 2 different brands. So Randy Orton was on Raw, and Randy Orton was on SmackDown, and Brock Lesnar was on Monday Night Raw. So when that happened, they had a little build-up, and Brock Lesnar, he ended up defeating Randy Orton despite having some good shots, some good spots, whatever in the match. And if you look at the end of the match, Brock Lesnar, since he couldn't beat Randy Orton with the F5 after he kicked out RKO and F5 back and forth, he started hitting Randy Orton, punching him, and he ended up bleeding inside the middle of the ring, and he lost by TKO. Now, some people thought that this was off script, and they thought Brock Lesnar legit beat Randy Orton. But this was a part of the script, and Chris Jericho, one of the close friends of Randy Orton, he came out from backstage, and he was feeling what happened. And also, when he did that, Brock Lesnar was face to face. And it seemed like it was going to go at it, but I heard Triple H and other WWE, wrestlers and officials, whatever, management, got in between both of them. So it looked that real that it was going to be a fight between Randy Orton getting beat down. It was between Jericho and Lesnar. Those guys were going to have a backstage fight. Chris Jericho spoke about this in interviews, and he wasn't scared of Brock Lesnar. He knew Brock Lesnar could take him down, and it was just crazy, though. But it was a good match. I just don't like the fact that we never got a rematch, because this has been a good match. And also, a side note, we never saw Batista versus Brock Lesnar either. I know they wrestled each other back at OVW. Come on, that's developmental. We talking about main roster here. Brock Lesnar, his prime, Batista, his prime. That would been so good to see as well. But this is one match I wish they could have just ran that back. So I'm gonna give it to you, good Brett.
Yeah, this match was weird to me because I've never seen this. The storyline never panned out, and to this day, I never ever seen a SummerSlam end with the opponent just laid out in the ring like that. No, it's so much loose ends. Even to this day, they can tie this storyline up and bring this back because it panned out to nothing. So it was very, very mysterious, definitely, and I still really don't know why they chose to go this route with the match.
I don't understand. You're right. I don't understand either. It was just a weird build-up. Like I said, they weren't on the same brand. They were on 2 different shows. And the fact they ran it like that, I think now looking back at it, it could have been something for a sponsor, maybe. Maybe sponsors want to see that match, Randy Orton versus Lesnar. That's probably why they ran it the way they did. It was that, so last minute, and we never saw it again. So I heard that WWE sponsors really get heavily involved behind certain matches. This is why I like AEW. There's no political stuff there. As far as matches, they just do it the way they want to do it, no sponsors involved. But that's what I believe of that one. Now, those were the 5 scandals that we had. Now, I did say it would be 5 scandals, guys, but there are some bonuses. I'm gonna add some extra stuff there, and these scandals are even much bigger than the ones that were mentioned We did talk about the Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Bulldog, Bret Hart, SummerSlam 92 at Wembley. But these are some more scandals that definitely people have not forgotten about, even years later to today. So I'm going to mention one of them right now. Got a couple I want to mention, and I'm going to definitely get to it right now. But there's some that definitely need to be touched on. There are two very significant ones in particular. Now, if you guys know one of them, you guys know of the Bret Hart. He did have issues at SummerSlam a lot. Another person had an issue. We got Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan. We got the SummerSlam 2005 match. I even did a live stream on this particular match, but we are talking about SummerSlam. If you guys remember this match here, this match was crazy on all levels and funny at the same time. And I said this before. If you guys remember, this thing was hilarious. It was all over the place. I couldn't stop laughing. I just could not stop laughing the whole time. It was just so hilarious. So hilarious. I mean, it was just like, whoa. And what's so funny about this one is this is the match where we had Shawn Michaels overselling. Even now, I'm thinking about it. It's so funny. And of course, there's going to be an interview about it. Shawn Michaels actually talked about this particular match, but it was a funny match. Now, the whole story behind this match is reportedly, I heard it was supposed to be a series of matches. It was supposed to be Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan. They were supposed to have a match, the whole advertisement of, Legend versus Icon or that whole thing for SummerSlam. And Hulk Hogan returned to SummerSlam. Thing about it is, with this particular match, it was a lot of backstage politicking between one of the top politicians in Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels. But thing about it is, it was a proposed multi-match Hogan and Michaels series. Each man was supposed to get a win, to help their reputation, their career. However, Mr. Hulk Hogan did not agree with this plan. He just wanted to have the one match. He did not want Shawn Michaels to get a win in any way, shape, or form. And I know, no pun intended, but literally, this is what Hulk Hogan pretty much said when it was proposed of a series match of Shawn Michaels getting the win and himself getting the win. This is how Hulk Hogan felt.
No, brother, it doesn't work for me right now.
He literally said that. So Shawn Michaels in response did the overselling, jumping all over the place. And he did it, so funny and so it just you can't even get mad at Shawn for that, because we understand Shawn Michaels' position. Hulk Hogan, you had your time. You had the Hulkamania. You had the yellow and red. You even had your WCW days as well. I mean, after you left WWE, fact of the matter is, Hulk Hogan, you was in your 50s at this point. You just weren't that guy anymore. And it caused people to feel some type of way about you because you still playing the backstage politics. And if you remember this match, guys, Shawn Michaels was funny.
Hogan again. And the shoulder block. Hogan!
So this was hilarious on all levels. But other than that, though, this was too much. And Hulk Hogan, you know what you did, Hulk Hogan, playing these politics at your age, at this point in your career. You know what you did, Hogan. You know you was wrong for that, right?
I didn't know that. You know what you did. I know what you're talking about. I was fair and square. You know what you're a legend, man.
So anyway, let's get the breakdown. Let's see what Shawn Michaels had to say about this interview. Let's see. He goes on side the ropes and he talks about it. So let's get into it and let's see what good old HBK had to say about it. Let's see what his take was on it. And it's coincidentally, it's his birthday today. Happy birthday to the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. But let's get into that.
had different priorities in your life and different things. And I'm not saying that's not true. It very much seems like it's true. But there was one time where the old Shawn Michaels seemed to come out a little bit, and that was in the program with Hulk Hogan. You guys are a tag team for a couple of months, posing all over the shop, beating tag teams, and then you turn on him, and then it felt like for a little while we got some of that 1997, 1998 Shawn Michaels, which people were clamoring for. The Larry King like sketch, we had the Walker. And it's the one thing that I've ever seen when you talk about it. Not that you get angry about it, there's a frustration there about that program, as how it turned out. Not that you're angry, but there's a frustration there. Why did that not turn out the way that you wanted it to, or the way you thought it should? And why is that the one time that you did decide to give a little bit of the old Shawn Michaels?
Well, because that's specifically what they asked for was 97 Shawn. And so the thing is, and so the only part that was ever frustrating was, me having to do a lot of it on my own and sort of it constantly changing, week to week, and of what we, originally had thought it would be. But then other than that, I mean, that's what everybody wanted. And look, I will say this, and it doesn't matter what I say, but you have to understand the wrestling business is always going to that's what we do, make things 10 times bigger. And the great thing about it is when we make it 10 times bigger, you guys make it 20 to 30 times bigger in your own minds, in your own world. And so the thing is,
Shawn Michaels got a point there. We do make it bigger. Yeah, Shawn Michaels, I told you, Shawn Michaels a politician like Hogan is. Shawn Michaels, you get one of these for that. I see where you're going with this HBK.
Spoken and spun like a true politician. I mean,
you definitely. Figure 4 TV said, don't forget to check out the Red Carpet Ring community tab section so you can vote on the greatest SummerSlam tournament. And yes, I explained that earlier, guys. I am voting on tournament here. This is what he's talking about. You have two sides, one for the R Red Carpet Ring, the other side Toxic Ring Scandal. So both channels, you can vote on the best SummerSlam PLE or pay-per-view ever. Let's keep that in mind, but let's continue on to see what good old HBK had to say about the match. And Marcus Joe 21, salute to you. That's right. Happy birthday to the legend Shawn Michaels. He turned 59 today. Yeah, 59.
I'm no dummy. I know the past that I created. All I have to do is give you a hint of that, and you think I'm back. You think I'm wrong. He's doing it again. And I don't mean it to be mean or cruel. It's just, the human wrestling fan is an easy thing to manipulate. God bless you. You know what I mean? But it's not like, I'm just saying, it's not like I could have done that whole Larry King live thing and like nobody in the WWE have okayed that. You know what I mean? Or even the promo that I did after it. You know what I mean? It's not like, because this is no longer 97. This is no longer, a world where it was just owned by one guy and we only had to run it by him. No, it is publicly traded. Now now things do have to get approved. So that's one of those things. That's a world, again, that all I know is that I learned that that's a world that almost takes care of itself. And I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but that's the easiest world to work because you guys are constantly caught up in what you believe to be the real behind the scenes. And all you have to do is mess with the real behind the scenes a little bit, feed that to you guys, and you're off and running with it. Piece of cake. You know what I mean? Well, I'm just saying, we as the Click, we did that all the time. That was one of the things we figured out early on is that, holy cow, and the locker room, half of them buy half of that stuff. So they only, look, for what it's worth, the only people who are easier to work than you guys are the guys we're in the dressing room with.
Mark your calendars this summer because FanDuel has something for everyone.
It's funny you say that because we did a show. We did a show in Glasgow with Scott Hall, and we were talking to him about when they came back in 2002, the NWO thing. And I'd asked him, I said, you know, was it difficult to go in that environment where people are kind of like, he was WCW, whatever. And he talked about an interaction where the Dudley boys came up to him and said, hey, how's it going? And he was like, yeah, cool. Oh, your finish is the 3D? And they were like, yeah. And he was like, can't wait to kick out of it. And they got really annoyed. And he was like, don't worry, I'm only serious. Like, and I guess that's kind of to your point. Is he's a bit. You've talked before about in the Hogan thing that it was originally going to be a few matches. You know, maybe he would win one, you would win one. You'd have a rubber match. So looking back now on it, with what it was, are you glad you did it? Is it something that you enjoyed doing when you look back?
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, I'll put it. One, it was one of those things that for me, I don't care who you are, if you're in this line of work and even remotely in the same era as him. You want to say you were out there with the biggest. I mean, say what you want, but he's the biggest name that this business, you know what I mean, will probably ever see or ever know. I mean, and so, look, it's one of those things that you just sort of go, again, I mean, same thing with Rick. I mean, it's one of those things that you, as a guy, I'm just saying, it's one of those things that, look, if you've got this, you know, your own little checklist in your mind, you know, to be able to say that. Because, again, you know, I was a fan once too. And so, and all of a sudden then one day you're in the locker room with these guys and it's like, oh my goodness. You know, and then you get time goes on, then you're their peers and your friends or whatever. And then all of a sudden your business, whatever the case may be, but there's still a part of you is like, I would love to, you know, that's one of the things I'd never done is been out there with Hulk Hogan. And he was back and it seemed like, look, this is an opportunity for this to be able to happen. Anybody think anything's there? We got anything? And so, yeah, and everybody seemed to, you know, think it was something that was viable. So I was definitely into it. You know, look, I will say that again, it was originally wanted to be, you know, just good guy versus good guy. And it was one of those things where, you know, HBK just needed to know. And those things got changed. And again, I knew that it's hard to say, okay, so now I got to be a heel. And one of the things also, like if you're Shawn Michaels, it's like, and again, the Jesus thing, it's like even going to church, like I somehow can't be a bad guy on TV. So if you got a hard time with the church people, so do I have to. Because it's like, so I can't pretend to be something on TV and still go to church on Sunday because that somehow makes me, I'm acting. You know what I mean? And so, like, look, I got no idea what's going to happen when that Marine 6 movie comes out because I say bad words in it. You know what I mean? Am I going to get in trouble at church when I do that? I don't understand that. I'm playing a part. You know what I mean? And so, and again, for what it's worth, I mean, like, you know, you know.
You guys notice Shawn Michaels always say, you know what I mean, for what it's worth. You know what I mean, for what it's worth. Keep saying that over and over. Come on, Shawn. Get some new words, man. Every time you're saying that now, I feel like it's a what moment up in here. Like, what? And when you said that, what? It's wild, man. Definitely something to look into. But that's tough. Yeah, but let's continue on. Let's see what Shawn Michaels had to say. Let's get into it.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say if it's who he says he is, he already knows what's already in there. You know what I mean? So, and it's either okay or it isn't. And so, but so it was that kind of stuff that even as a wrestling fan, I can't be a bad guy anymore without everybody thinking there's a part of me that's really bad. And then sometimes you go like, oh, you know, how many times do we have to go through this? So that's, to your point, that's the only part that gets a little, I guess, like frustrating about it is where pro wrestling is only pro wrestling when you want it to be. And that's the thing that's always been, that's what frustrated the Click all those times way back when is that like, it's all built on BS, but if we throw the BS out now, you don't like it. You know what I mean? It's, so it was only that kind of stuff that made it even remotely tough. But I was very, again, thrilled to do it. And even like the match itself, even that's gotten blown out of proportion. All that really did was reveal to me that I made the right choice in not trying to be a heel again, because, that is the way I sold when I was a heel. And now you fast forward to 2005 and that's known as overselling. I wouldn't be good at it. I mean, that's the thing, because there was only, as I told people, there was only one thing I was trying to do, in that match. And it was a joke. It was a private joke between Kevin Nash and I. Everything else is turned out to have a life of its own, which just honestly, just shows that I'm no longer a good heel anymore, because that's how I used to bump for everybody in 95 and nobody minded it. You know what I mean? Well, I'm just saying it's one of those things. Ziggler does it now and nobody calls it overselling. Well, I'm just saying, I guess that's one of the things that, and that happens 100%, and I don't mean it to be, critical, and it's okay, but that happens 100% because I'm Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? No, I mean that in the bad sense. I get that kind of criticism, again, because I get, I'm going to get some of that, like, oh, no, he was really angry. That, look, there's nothing I can do about that. That's part of having to, having the past that I have. You have to deal with stuff like that. I can think of a lot worse things to do. You know what I mean? If that's all I have to deal with is, having to explain, like, no, honestly, I wasn't trying to bury the guy, really, really badly. I was actually, the thing is, I will say, I was trying to make the stuff that I didn't think was looking very good try to look good, and so clearly I went overboard trying to do that. You know what I mean? But it's just when you see it done to somebody else, it doesn't look very good, so you feel like I need to make it bigger. And clearly I didn't do a good job with that, but I didn't. I honestly, I've never gone out there, like I said, except the one time. The one time I was told to have something bad happen in a match, it happened. But I was told to do that. I've never once gone out there and tried to, stink the joint out. You know what I mean? I'm known for a lot of stuff, but trying to stink the joint out is not one.
Watch world-class soccer live on a variety of networks.
And that is Shawn Michaels talking about the match he had with Hulk Hogan back in 2005, guys. If you guys remember it, they had the famous match here. That is Shawn Michaels. He said some good stuff there. Hulk Hogan's a big name. He said some good points there. He also said that, he ain't the only one to oversell like that. We know he spoke it and spun it like a true politician, but he still did that because of Hogan not putting HBK over in 1A matches. So we got to give him for that. But, other than that, this was a good political interview. Yeah, let's get the likes up. Come on, guys. Get the likes up. Come on. We talking about SummerSlam. We talking about scandals. We talking about the biggest scandals that ever went down in the history of this event. Something that people always talk about. So let's definitely get into that, guys. Let's get the likes up. But other than that, though, I do have another one. Just want to notate that. I definitely have another match that I want to talk about, which I will talk about. And we are going to talk about another match that happened at SummerSlam. It is crazy, though, guys. Definitely wild. Let's see what is the whole thing behind it. Thing about it is, it was a famous match that people don't know about, that people know about. Famous match. And thing about it is, the famous match that happened, it was a very severe match. Very severe. It ended up coming at a cost. Definitely a cost. And the cost was someone's career was cut short. And the way it was cut short, it was fortunately one of our beloved wrestlers. Let's not forget about that. And we are definitely talking about we are talking about SummerSlam here. But the one we talking about in particular, he was, like I said, a legend in his own right. He's a big name like Hulk Hogan. And what's crazy is people still talk about this particular match even more than the Hogan and Shawn Michaels match. Of course, Hogan and Shawn Michaels was of course, newer than this match that had happened. And the thing about this particular match, it was very severe, and it could have. Thank goodness his career could have lasted a lot longer, but it didn't. And we are talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Owen Hart Intercontinental Championship match back in 1997, SummerSlam 97. And this particular match is the whole match where Stone Cold neck was definitely was out. Owen took him out, and we took him out. He took out Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold was on the shelf for a while. Like I said, he came back. He had a little bit longer career, but we know that it was cut short because of this particular incident. If you guys remember this part.
No! How about that? Tombstone pile driver! Save to the Undertaker!
If that wasn't one of the biggest scandal matches behind the scene, and imagine Stone Cold's head went through that. I know that happened. People just couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe it. I mean, it was. And it's after Stone Cold said he talked to Owen Hart about going over the match, and he said he told Owen he told Owen to drop on his knees doing a tombstone pile driver, and Owen insisted that he didn't. He just dropped on his bottom to do it. It was no good. But Owen, you knew what you was doing, and you knew there's a chance that Stone Cold could have broke his neck, which you did, but he could have been done that night for good. He may not have been alive again. No, you did. We did that.
I didn't know that. You know what you did. I know what you're talking about. I was fair and square. You know what you're a legend, man.
So this was a very, very sensitive situation. I know Owen's not here anymore, but other than that, it's still a sensitive part to talk about. Because Stone Cold wasn't even moving at one point. If you guys remember, he was not even moving, and it's just something that we have not forgotten about to this day. Definitely something that's not forgotten about, but we're gonna definitely we're gonna talk about what Stone Cold he talked about a little bit, if you guys remember. And of course, I think JR talked about his injury. His neck was so damaged, man. We could have got some more years out of Stone Cold. We could have got a lot more years out of it. But we're going to see what happened when this went down. And let's get to that part. Stone Cold, man. This was no good. No good. This no good at all. Well, let's get into that now. This was... I know Stone Cold talked about it. And this was Stone Cold on Off the Record. So it was real quick. It wasn't... Let's see what he had to say about it. Let's see what Stone Cold had to say about it, because this was... Oh, man. We could have got some more years out of that, but we didn't. Let's see what let's get to Stone Cold when he talks about this on. This was off the record. It was off the record. But yeah, Stone Cold could have wrestled at least 10 more years. We could have got good 10 more years out of him, but we didn't, unfortunately. But we're gonna talk about this now. You guys get the likes up. We'll get to the part in the interview.
Requested guest ever, so you can probably guess.
Those numbers don't lie, and I don't brag about merchandise sales. It's to stay around and get so much it wasn't even fun anymore. Well, I think it's starting to get a lot more fun for him because the rating race has been pretty damn fun the last few weeks. And with the 5-7 we just said, not too long ago, was the highest rating ever for wrestling.
Right. There's no question that we should point this out to an audience that may or may not know. WWF has had a really good last little while. WrestleMania was the highest grossing of all times pay-per-view.
Right.
Highest rated show the past, your last Raw in the Vince McMahon, Steve Austin storyline. But I want to ask you, though, I want to go back to WCW and say, you got a phone call, right, from Eric Bischoff when he was your employer.
Right.
What did he say on the
Well, I was recovering from a torn tricep I suffered over in Japan. And, the arm was healing up. And basically he told me, based on the amount of days I've been incapacitated, based on the amount of days, on the amount of money they were paying me, that they were going to exercise their right to terminate the agreement. So I said, basically, you're telling me I'm fired. He goes, well, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. When you get well, maybe, we can talk again. And, getting fired doesn't bother me at all. If I get fired tomorrow, that doesn't bother me. But, I lived 30 miles from the CNN Center at the time. All you got to do is say, come down to the office, we need to talk. I just got pissed off that he fired me over the phone. I think it's a pretty lame thing to do to a person that works for you for 4 years.
Right. He fired a guy, though, who was not a star, right, in WCW at the time. There's no disputing. Eric Bischoff wouldn't even dispute it. You are a huge star right now. What is the difference? Why in WWF is your persona so enormous, and back there you were just another guy?
Well, it was a whole political thing when Bryan Pillman and myself formed the Hollywood Blondes. They saw how that was taken off, and it would have been at the time it was the hottest tag team of all time, and it would have been one of the best ever. And they shut that down for political reasons. So I never was getting
takes off your character.
Japan or wherever I go, I am going to be. Anytime you put a limitation on me or tell me I can't do something, I'll prove you wrong every single time.
Fans have a hunger for aggression now that minimizing your chances of staying healthy. They
compromising your health right there. Maybe some steps should be done to try to get people to be a little bit safer. But that's just the facts. That's just his ass.
How'd they get so much flavor in these Skittles Littles?
'Twas I who shrunk the Skittles and
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me throw out some names. Give me one line, one comment, whatever. What? Again, back with more with Stone Cold.
Yes, Bryan was 34, 35 years old with the heart problem and all that, and all the pain he was in. Just a real sad thing. Says, well, it didn't really sink in. It didn't until you wanted to finish the show. It probably wouldn't be good for you because you wouldn't be talking. What they say, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Or something to that degree.
Well,
I'm not. Yeah,
we're gonna take a commercial break, and maybe I'll shave my head and imitate
would
you. Probably not. Anybody who knows me, chances are they're thinking he ain't shaving his hair. We will take a break and talk about a very serious subject. Your good friend Bryan Pillman went off the record.
Okay, I started. I paid my dues, and for a year and a half there, and a lot of guys, pay the dues for a hell of a lot longer than I had to. And you got to learn. There's really no formal education. You don't get you're going to have a good time while I'm here.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. I got a lot I want to talk to you about, the Vince McMahon thing, but you mentioned that you got dropped in your head, pile driver by Owen Hart.
Right.
Is there some animosity between you and he?
You're
genuine.
Right.
I'm
telling you.
Yeah, okay.
You're damn right when you talk about something as serious as that. To lay in front of 20,000 people.
Did he screw up?
You're damn right he screwed up.
What did he do?
They dropped me flat on my head.
As opposed to?
Usually, you suffer a little jolt out of that, but not anything like I did. And lay there in front of 20,000 people, not being able to move an arm or a leg, I'm still pissed off at, about it, to this day.
Didn't he come up with a T-shirt also that said?
I think someone else came up with
Hart.
a T-shirt.
No, but Hart 316 and said, I broke your neck or something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cheap avenue to go, but that's the way sometimes the wrestling business is.
But that is the way the wrestling business is.
Well, I'm not going to sit there and whine and complain about it. It just goes with the territory. That's the way it goes. If you're going to whine and complain about everything, that's what Bret Hart did.
He whined and complained about.
Yeah, I was whining and complaining.
You're in Bret Hart territory here, Steve.
I don't really care what territory I'm in. I'm not going to cater to anybody. Like I said,
Stone Cold had a point. It was cheesy when I remember when Owen Hart did do the whole, T-shirt, and of course you don't want to complain because you don't want to come off as another Bret Hart. You definitely don't want to come off as another Bret Hart. So he had a good point there, and I give Steve kudos. But I know I heard there was some rumblings too that they don't talk about Stone Cold. Rumor has it that well, not even a rumor, I heard it was true that he had injured and broke someone's neck himself in Japan, and their career was never the same. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Owen breaking Stone Cold's neck. And you heard he said he fell on his head and he definitely screwed up. And he said he got mad. He was still hearing it. He was still talking about it. You guys remember that moment?
No! How about that? I've got a ring. Tombstone pile driver. Save to the under.
So Stone Cold had every right to feel the way he did. Every right to feel the way he did. So with that being said, I know also too, not only Stone Cold talk about, but I know JR, good old Jim JR, he talks about Stone Cold's neck injury. So that's going to be crazy. Because he, you know, that's his, Jim Ross and Stone Cold, they're close friends. So he going to talk about the neck injury and everything. Because Jim Ross, you know, he was there. He saw through it all. But I want to see what Jim Ross had to say regarding his injury. So let's talk about it. And we are almost at the finish line, guys. We're almost at the finish line. And then this will be the last thing we talk about. So we are talking about Stone Cold versus Owen Hart, and the injury here.
Steve Austin's first live interview aired as the highlight of Halftime Heat, which aired edited video clips of the Hardy's Dudley match and the swimsuit competition from the Royal Rumble, with the key parts being edited off the show, of course. Austin was in a neck brace, obviously in great pain, and it was weird because they showed a clip of him getting run over as the reason for his injury, but almost in WCW-like fashion, they did the interview and neither he nor Jim Ross brought up the angle they were selling. Now, before we move on, do you remember that interview? And do you remember sitting down thinking, well, we got to get over that he was hit by a car? Or did you want to do more quote unquote shoot style and maybe the office didn't get the memo?
I want to tell the truth.
Right.
Steve wanted to tell the truth, Conrad. Simple as that. The car angle, because I don't think Steve was overwhelmingly excited about working with Rikishi. It's challenging to work with a guy that big, even though Rikishi had great skills and instincts and so forth. And he's got very talented sons wrestling now as well. But be that as it may, Steve wanted to go more of an honest.
Baseball is back.
Stone Cold route. Here's what it is, and this is what I'm dealing with, and it makes it more believable. But the creative forces wanted to stick with the sports entertainment theme and sell the angle, and thinking that Steve at somewhere would accept that angle as a good part of his journey. He never did. So, but we just followed orders. You're told to do this, and we did that, and we did it. And of course, it's also edited. So, if we had talked about it in other terms, it would not have made air. So it was just the way it was, man. That's what they wanted. The producer, the owner, the creator wanted this, and that's what we provided.
Let me ask you, you mentioned Rikishi there. Do you think by this point you guys had already imagined that this is going to be the payoff? I mean, we know ultimately it wound up being Rikishi, but do you think you knew that at this point, or was it still a question mark?
Well, we knew where we were going.
Okay.
So yeah, no, what a question mark. I mean, Rikishi was the guy that was earmarked to be good. You get a push, the almighty God forbid push. So that was that, and so Austin and I obviously knew what the plan was, but he wasn't crazy about the plan.
Right.
So that's simple as that, man. It's just he wanted to be real, and reality-based pro wrestling always has worked better than total fantasy and bullshit.
No doubt about that. Let's keep going here. Meltzer also, all right. Ross brought up Deborah, which is a subject that has never been broached on WWF television before. And Austin said they were engaged and would be married in the near future. And they continued on that the next night on Raw. Ross was clearly trying to make it seem legit and not like an angle, and Austin was somewhat in character and somewhat not, and even brought up Austin being an icon of the sport like Bruno Sammartino in the 60s and 70s and Hulk Hogan in the 80s in the WWF, mentioning two names that are never mentioned and certainly not reverent in reverent terms like that on WWF television. Austin estimated 3 to 4 months before he could be back in the ring, but also said if he couldn't go full speed, he just wouldn't come back. And Austin was clearly in a lot of pain, and a lot of people were stunned by seeing him in that condition and his slurring words and the like. And it was one of those deals where, in hindsight, it may have been better had he not done the interview. Do you remember being concerned that, man, we're showing him in a less than ideal state? Maybe we shouldn't do this. Did you say
you don't show John Wayne weak?
There you go.
You don't show John Wayne selling. You don't to any degree off a non-bleeding wound. It probably, in hindsight, would have been better if Austin did not do the interview with JR. And secondly, it was just a way to pop a rating. Steve was money. Steve was a rating. Whatever he did, wherever he did it, people were going to tune in, and that's what was being sought after on that halftime heat interview. It was a unique time. It was a unique placement, and they needed Austin to drive the people to that program, so that it's like a lost leader item at Walmart. You go in and buy something for 99 cents. It may cost them $1.50, but they don't care because they got you in the store for the 99-cent item. And we got to watch TV because of the presence of the greatest star that we had to that point in Stone Cold.
No doubt about it. It's something that we've heard as wrestling fans for a long time. Guys would say, old timers would say, keep your wife away from the business. Did you have a conversation with Steve about, I don't know, man, is it a good idea we acknowledge Deborah? Or was it more one of those spots where if he didn't acknowledge Deborah, then there really maybe wasn't a role for her on TV at that point. So let's mention her so she can keep a job and keep traveling with me.
No, it wasn't. I don't remember discussing with Steve the whole Deborah topic. I think there were things that we were given, subject matters, bullet points, so to speak, to discuss. But I was not going to go into business for myself and talk about a man's fiance.
Sure.
In real life, and getting ready to get married in real life without clearing it with him. It wasn't my idea to talk about Deborah. I didn't see a lot of reason to bring her into the equation, other than it made Steve more human, I guess, because he's a man and he and this woman are attracted to each other, and she's a beautiful, very nice, very smart. She's got a master's degree from the University of Alabama now in criminology, and doing great. So, she's just she was a wonder. Everybody liked Deborah, and there's no reason not to. But topic would not have been brought up unless it was handed to us to bring it up. And I think the only benefit it had was to kind of make Steve more of a real person. So it was touchy, no doubt. But Steve was not surprised by anything that we talked about. Your original question was, should we have done the interview in the first place? Probably not. But again, it was a way to get people to tune in.
Do you think Steve was concerned at this point that he might not be able to return?
Maybe a little bit, but I think Dr. Lloyd Youngblood there in San Antonio, had done such an amazing job of not only the surgery on Steve's neck, but also, his bedside manner, Dr. Youngblood's bedside manner, it comforted Steve. He felt good about what he was hearing because Dr. Youngblood is a big, strong guy, a nice man. Because I spent a lot of time down there on the surgery process, and his talk and his motivation resonated with Steve. So I don't think there was but you don't know until you get back in the ring. So that's my point. In a long story short, if he had gotten back in the ring, had tingling, numbness, pain, whatever, it was over. But Dr. Youngblood felt very confident that he had fixed the issue and that Steve would not have those problems. But without a doubt, because this is DNA, and the narrow spinal cord, we realized that he's not going to have this 20-year career going forward. He'd already had a long career, but he just wasn't going to be able to do the long-term stuff, and we had to use him more judiciously. We had to address his booking a different way. But as long as we could not tarnish the image of Stone Cold, then we were going to be fine. But I don't think so. I don't think Steve was ever. You got to have doubt, Conrad. You got to have the doubt until you're in the ring and bump around and see how you're going to feel the next day and the next day. But luckily for us, he healed. He's a tough son of a bitch, and he had that. He still had that amazing motor, man. The will to to work hard and to be the best. He wasn't done, and so who the hell are we going to tell him he's not done? If the doctor's liking it, Steve's liking it, man, world's getting better all the time.
No doubt. Let's talk just briefly about the PTC campaign against SmackDown. It pops up here again.
And that is Jim Ross talking about Stone Cold's neck injury. Following from this match, this is when Stone Cold started having issues. Now I know Jim Ross said that he didn't want to work with Rikishi, all that was later on in the interview, but it all started from this injury at SummerSlam 97 against Owen Hart. This is how the whole thing kicked off. This is how the whole thing began. It started from this particular injury. And it sucks because I know Jim Ross said that, that Stone Cold had a long career, could have been much longer had not been for this injury. This injury it's caused a lot of trouble. Definitely a lot of trouble for Stone Cold's neck. Now, he ended up retiring from in-ring competition fully in 2003. He had the little one-off match with Kevin Owens, but let's be real, nobody wanted to see that. I didn't want to see that. But he did everything he could. I just wish he could have wrestled a little bit longer. Like I said, I know JR said that he was tough, but he still could have wrestled a little bit longer. But it all started from his injury. That's what kicked everything off with this injury. Had it not happened, we would have saw Stone Cold much longer in the ring. He wouldn't lace up the boots so early because I think Stone Cold was 39 going on 40 when he retired. So he still was pretty young for wrestling wise. Because he couldn't wrestle the same anymore. His neck was never ever the same following this injury. He had to get surgery, everything with the neck injury. So it just shows that one false move in wrestling or any other sport, it could either change your career for the worse. And it did for Stone Cold Steve Austin, unfortunately. But at least we got the time with Stone Cold that we did. I can't say. We did get that. But other than that, though, guys, this is all I have regarding the biggest SummerSlam scandals. We are talking about SummerSlam behind the scenes. So you guys tune in and check out the scandals if you're on the playback. If you came in late now, check that out. And also, I talked about tournaments. Tournament we got going on too. I mentioned that. Check out the voting. Make sure you vote on the SummerSlam matches. We'll do voting on here, Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDH, and Red Carpet Ring. So let's keep that going. But other than that, though, I thank you all for coming out. Soon to videos will pop up for Toss Ring Scandal. Check out content of any backstage scandals, anything for that matter. And you guys already know what it is. It is OUNT.